Friends, this is the story of a boy named Darren, whose funeral is today. His family and friends are heartbroken by his death. But at the same time, we see in the coffin that Darren is still alive. Not only that, he's happily playing video games inside the coffin. He has no idea that outside, everyone thinks he's dead and he's about to be buried alive. But why is this happening to him? Let's find out. To understand this, we need to go back in time. Darren's life was going great. He was very popular at school and had good friends. He was also an excellent student, which made his parents very proud. Darren also had a childhood friend named Steve. Steve was Darren's best friend, but he was also a negative influence in his life. One day, Darren and Steve went to school. Steve convinced Darren to skip class. They went up to the school roof, where Steve started breaking the school's light bulbs with a stone and challenged Darren to do the same. A teacher heard them from the roof and they were caught. Their actions were reported to their parents. Darren's parents always knew him as a good student, so as soon as he came home, they started scolding him and told him to end his friendship with Steve. In their opinion, being friends with Steve was making Darren a bad student like him. The next day, on their way to school, Darren told Steve that his parents wanted him to stop being friends with him. Hearing this, Steve got sad and told Darren, "You can never stand up for yourself." This led to an argument between them. Just then, a car passed by, and someone inside threw a poster at them. Darren and Steve picked up the poster and read it, discovering that a circus called Freak Show was coming to their town tonight. They planned to go to the circus that night. Later, we see Darren in class, reading the poster hidden in his book. His teacher came and snatched the poster away. The teacher then warned the entire class about the circus, telling them not to go because it showcased illegal things. But Darren and Steve didn't listen to the teacher. They secretly went to the circus that night. We learn here that both of them liked strange things. For example, Darren was a big fan of spiders and Steve liked vampires, and they always thought about them. They both arrived at the circus and bought tickets to watch the show. A strange-looking person behind the curtain gave them their tickets. Steve showed his hand to that person, who then bit Steve's hand and ran away. They both forgot about this incident and went inside the circus. The show's host, Mr. Tall, came onto the stage and called out the first performer. This first performer was a werewolf, who scared everyone. Mr. Tall then pointed the werewolf towards a woman sitting in the audience. The werewolf went to the woman and cut her hand. People were terrified by this, but after a while, the woman's hand started to heal again. Everyone was surprised to see this, and the woman went onto the stage. Mr. Tall introduced her as Karma and said she was a member of their show. Next, a third performer named Alexander came to the show, who had no ribs in his body. After Alexander, a girl named Gartha came who had powerful teeth that could eat anything. After Gartha, a performer named Ramus came who had 2 stomachs. This allowed him to eat anything. Here, he showed his talent by eating a 3-wheeled bicycle. Then, a beautiful woman named Madame Tuska came onto the stage. She called Darren onto the stage and told him she would make him her assistant for a magic trick. As soon as Madame Tuska began to touch Darren's face, she saw his future. She saw something terrifying, which scared her greatly, and she recoiled from Darren. Suddenly, Madame Tuska's face started growing a beard, which she quickly cut off to return to her previous appearance. The audience found this magic very entertaining. After seeing Darren's future, Madame Tuska was so scared that she told the circus leader, Larten, to stop the show. Why was Madame Tuska so afraid of Darren? We'll find out later. Despite Madame Tuska's repeated requests, Larten didn't listen to her and went onto the stage to perform magic. Larten brought his spider companion, Octa, onto the stage. Here, Larten danced while playing an instrument. Octa danced with him. At this time, Steve recognized Larten as a vampire. Steve had read about Larten in a book. Steve then told Darren that Larten was a vampire whose real name was Ver. Just then, Steve and Darren's teacher arrived with the police and tried to stop the show. To escape from the teacher, they went backstage. Seizing the opportunity, Darren stole Octa from Larten's room because he had liked Octa at first sight. Darren was escaping with Octa when he heard Larten's footsteps. So he hid. Larten came into the room with an old man. The old man was talking to Larten about vampires. Vampires were hybrid vampires who killed people to drink their blood. But Larten was a vampire who would knock people unconscious to drink their blood. At this time, Steve arrived there and told Larten that he also wanted to be a vampire. He hated his life because he was alone. Steve's father had left him long ago, leaving his mother alone. After Steve's repeated requests, Larten agreed to turn him into a vampire and tested Steve's blood. But when Larten put Steve's blood in his mouth, he learned that Steve had too much evil within him. If he turned Steve into a vampire, he would become a very bad vampire and start killing people. For that reason, Larten would not turn him into a vampire. Hearing this, Steve got very angry and said nasty things to Larten before leaving. Larten then realized that his spider, Octa, was not in the box. So he started looking for Octa. Seeing this, Darren got very scared and hid from Larten, then ran away. Darren ran until he reached a street. Just then, a car came and two people inside picked Darren up. This was the same car that was used to spread the circus posters. Inside this car, two people named Merlot and Mr. Tiny were shown. After questioning Darren, they realized they had kidnapped the wrong boy. They were actually looking for Darren's friend, Steve, for some purpose. After that, they dropped him off at his house without saying anything more. The next day, Darren took Octa to school in his bag. There, Steve saw Octa and started playing with him. Suddenly, the box fell from his hand, and Octa started to escape. Seeing this, Darren started chasing Octa, but Steve ran to hit it. Octa ran into the hallway, which scared all the students. After some time, Octa tried to escape through a window, but before escaping, it bit Steve's face, which made Steve fall down and faint from the spider bite. Darren then went to Larten and told him everything. He also asked Larten to save Steve's life, but Larten initially didn't help him. However, when Darren pleaded with him repeatedly, Larten agreed to help him on one condition. Darren would have to become his vampire assistant. He would even have to leave his family, friends, and social life. Darren only wanted to save Steve, so he accepted Larten's condition. As a result, Larten pricked Darren's finger and mixed vampire blood with his own. This turned Darren into a half-vampire. After that, Darren went to the hospital with Larten. There, Larten injected an antidote into Steve's body, which caused Steve to start recovering. After a few days, it was seen that being a vampire, Darren felt like eating raw meat. One day, he even felt like drinking his sister's blood. But he somehow controlled himself and went to his room, where he saw Larten. Actually, Larten had come to warn Darren. He told Darren to leave his home because he could be dangerous to his family. But Darren didn't want to do that. But then he remembered that he had wanted to drink his sister's blood just a while ago. For that reason, he decided to leave his family. If he suddenly disappeared, his parents would worry for the rest of their lives. Darren told Larten, "I have to die for my family, and you will help me with that." That night, Larten came to Darren and twisted his neck, knocking him down. Larten had killed him in such a way that he appeared dead to everyone. Now, the current scene is shown, where Darren's funeral was happening. But Darren was alive inside the coffin. On the night of the funeral, Larten dug up the grave and took Darren out. At that time, Merlot arrived there, who was the leader of the vampires. He attacked them, but Larten escaped from there with Darren. #### Steve's descent and Darren's training. At this time, Steve is shown, who was very sad about Darren's death and missed Darren a lot. Steve's only friend was Darren, and after he left, Steve felt very alone. For that reason, one day he decided to commit suicide. Just as Steve was about to jump from the roof, Mr. Tiny arrived there and prevented him from committing suicide. Here, Mr. Tiny tells Steve, "I know about your life and your dream of becoming a vampire. For that reason, I will give you the opportunity to become a vampire." Here, we learn that Mr. Tiny is also a vampire with Merlot. Mr. Tiny tells him about Darren, that Darren is still alive and has become a vampire. Besides, Mr. Tiny wanted to make Steve angry by lying to him about Darren, saying that becoming a vampire was Steve's dream, but Darren had stolen his dream. After learning all this, Steve became very angry with Darren. For that reason, he accepted Tiny's offer. After that, Darren is shown slowly becoming friends with the circus people. And while helping others, he also started training himself. Darren missed his family and Steve a lot. For that reason, he kept looking at their pictures on his mobile phone. Seeing the pictures, Darren became very sad and was about to call Steve when Larten arrived there and snatched his mobile phone and broke it because he didn't want anyone to know Darren's truth. At this time, Mr. Tiny came there to talk about Darren. Here, we learn that Darren had some kind of power from birth, which is why Mr. Tiny wanted to keep him with him. When Mr. Tiny asked Larten for Darren, Mr. Tall told him that he would think about it and let him know. After Tiny left, Larten told Darren not to go out of the circus because he had to be careful of the Vampinese. After that, Larten started training Darren so that he could protect himself. After the training, Darren's skills and strength increased. On the other hand, Merlot turned Steve into a Vampinese. As a result, Steve gained evil powers and transformed into a demon. Steve first killed his school teacher. Next, Darren is shown. He was very hungry. For that reason, Larten took him to a field and knocked a person unconscious, telling Darren to drink his blood. But Darren's mind was clear, so even though he was hungry, he didn't drink human blood. After that, they both returned to the circus. Suddenly, a group of Vampinese attacked them, and a fight broke out between the two groups, resulting in several deaths. Actually, the Vampinese had come looking for Darren. Then the Vampinese found Darren. He was hiding with a girl from the circus named Rebecca. Here, a fight broke out between the Vampinese and Darren. At that time, Larten and Mr. Tall arrived there with their companions and saved Darren from the Vampinese. After that, all the Vampinese escaped from there. After some time, Darren and Larten learned that Merlot had kidnapped Rebecca. The next morning, Darren went alone to look for her, because he felt that all this was happening because of him. At this time, Mr. Tiny kidnapped Darren's family to trap him. Here, Darren is seen going to his house to see his family, but his house was completely empty. Then his eyes fell on a poster kept on the table. Mr. Tiny had written on it that he was waiting for him at the circus. Here, Larten also decided to fight with the Vampinese and gathered his weapons. After that, Darren came to the circus and saw his family and Rebecca hanging. Seeing Steve with the Vampinese, Darren understood that he had also become a Vampinese. For that reason, Darren attacked Steve without thinking. At this time, Larten also arrived and started fighting with Merlot. Besides, Darren was very weak from not drinking blood and was losing against Steve. Then Rebecca freed herself and went to Darren and told him to drink her blood so that Darren would regain his strength. But Darren didn't want to drink her blood. Then Rebecca told him, "Nothing will happen to me. I'll be fine." Hearing this, Darren started drinking her blood. On the other hand, Larten was very injured. But he didn't give up and continued fighting, finally thrusting a knife into Merlot's body. As a result, Merlot died there. Meanwhile, after regaining his strength, Darren continued fighting with Steve. Then Mr. Tiny arrived there and stopped their fight. After that, Mr. Tiny used his powers to revive Merlot and turn him into a creature. Then Mr. Tiny told both of them to come with him. But Darren didn't want to go with him. But Steve chose the wrong path and went with Mr. Tiny. After they both left, Larten hypnotized Darren's family and erased their current memories. As a result, they forgot all these events. At the end of the movie, Darren is seen returning to the circus. Seeing this, all the circus members welcomed him. With this, the movie ends here. Friends, if you liked my movie explanation, please like and share it, and subscribe to the Film Insight TV channel for more movie explanations of this kind. Thank you.